Cornwall, here we come.
Come on.
I've gone down to 4% of charge remaining now.
Look at all these free supercharger points here.
Communication failed.
That is as simple as it is.
Third time lucky.
Oh look, it's Stonehenge.
Oh my God, someone just tried to kill me.
Idiot.
What can you do?
There's a slug crawling across my rear screen. For years now, if you wanted an electric car to do long journeys in, but you didn't want to spend a ridiculous amount of money, you bought a Tesla.
But MG has just released the MG4 Extended Range. It's a big battery version of its very good, very cheap electric car. So is this the best value 300-mile electric car that you can buy? Is this better than a Tesla? Or is the Model 3 still the benchmark?
We're driving from London
To Cornwall and back to find out. So Will, what are you driving and what are we doing?
So I'm driving the cheapest Tesla that you can buy. It's a Tesla Model 3 rear-wheel drive. It costs £43,000 and officially it has a range of 305 miles. We are going to Cornwall, so Land's End in Cornwall from London and back again. We're going to have an overnight stop in Newquay. So today we've got 330 miles to do or thereabouts, and then the following day we're going to drive back to London.
So I am in an MG4, but it's the new MG4 Extended Range. So this is quite a bit cheaper than your Tesla. This is £36,495, but it's cheaper with a longer range than you as well. So officially this can do 323 miles. So what we're doing in this test is we're trying to find out whether this is the most recommendable 300 mile plus electric car, or are we going to realise at the end of this that actually the Tesla is definitely still worth the extra.
Okay, so my original plan was to just put the destination into the sat-nav and let that decide where I should stop for charging. That recommended the first stop at Amesbury, which isn't that far down the road. I would get there about 11:30. I don't really want to stop that soon. So I've decided to go on to the next supercharger. So that is in Exeter, so already in Devon, but it means I'll get there about 1:30, so perfect time for lunch. So depending on how long I actually charge for, depending on how long it takes for me to get some lunch and a coffee, I'll decide what to do at that point. But what I'll probably end up doing is just programming Newquay via Land's End into the sat-nav and then letting it decide what to do from there. By the way, there is a new facelifted version of the Model 3 and we've already driven it. You can watch the video by clicking the link up there at the top. But it's not on sale yet, so if you buy one right now, this is the car you'll get.
So with the charger that I'm aiming for and with the indicated range that the car's telling me I've got left, I've got about a 50-mile buffer. So I reckon I'm going to make it just fine. My route included a charging stop 250 miles from London and a backup one 20 miles before that. I found them on ZapMap. While Will had the luxury of Tesla's fantastic infotainment system, the MG, like most other cars, is stuck with its own shonky inbuilt sat-nav, which I didn't really trust. Luckily, the MG4 comes with Apple CarPlay, so I set off with Waze leading the way.
Okay, so here we are, made it absolutely fine. 1:30 as the sat-nav predicted, not too bad on the traffic front. I've still got 32% left, so hopefully I'll be able to plug in and charge up with no problems at all. Okay, so as I predicted, look at all these free supercharger points here. Now, it's very easy to charge up your Tesla as well, so you don't have to mess around with any apps on your phone or any cards or anything like that. All you do is you open the charging flap there and you plug the charger in. And the money comes out of your account automatically, or in this case, it comes out of Tesla's bank account because this is not my car. Okay, so what are we getting? 147, 144 kilowatts. This car can accept, in theory, 175. Other Model 3s, like the long range and the performance, can accept higher charging rates, but not bad at all. And I've already got 6 miles extra in the battery, and I've only been charging for about 30 seconds. So I've got 35 minutes to get to full. Obviously, I'm not going to charge to completely full, I just need enough to get me down to Cornwall. So let's go and grab some lunch.
So Will has had to stop and charge up. I don't have to just yet. My dilemma at the minute though is that the charger that I've got my eye on is 100 miles away. The range I have left, according to this MG4, is 101 miles, 37% of my battery. I do have a backup charger, which is 80 miles away, but I think I'm going to try and push on and stick with my plan A.
Right, so had some lunch, got a coffee, it's been just under half an hour. Let's see how much charge we've got. And we have 233 miles in the tank. We've added 146 miles according to the trip computer, probably not that far. In reality, we've got nearly 90% in the battery. I think we might as well be on our way. Doug, what's up?
Well, I'm hoping you've had a very inconvenient charging stop and had to wait for ages and it didn't work properly and you're now massively delayed. Is that right?
Yeah, pretty much, other than the fact that I just plugged in straight away, absolutely fine, very quick to charge, left with enough to get me to Land's End and Newquay. But because, you know, I've got a lot of time, I might just stop at Camborne, just so tomorrow is a lot easier. But I'm assuming you've had similar experience?
Well, I'm really pleased to hear all of that, of course. I have had a slightly different, more stressful experience. When I drove past you at Exeter, I was very confident that I would make my plan A stop. But from the moment that I passed Exeter, my range was just plummeting. And also, I've been in eco mode for basically the whole journey. I've hardly used air conditioning at all. So then it quickly became apparent that, well, I'd have to revert to my emergency backup plan. But now, as I've pushed on, I'm now not even that confident that I'm going to make this emergency backup. And I've dropped my speed right down. I'm going 60 miles an hour. It's really quite hot. I would like to use some aircon, but I can't. And the situation now is that I am 20 miles from this backup charger, and the MG4 is telling me I've got 23 miles of range remaining.
Okay, so that's absolutely fine. You've got 3 miles of buffer. What more do you want?
So I've been having to look up emergency backups for my emergency backup.
How many charging? I'm assuming there are sort of 32 stalls, like there was at Exeter for Tesla chargers.
I think there are 2,
Okay.
one of which was in use according to ZapMap last time I checked. But they're fast chargers, but I will have to stay there for a while because I need to get a big top up there because I don't want to have to worry about this on the way down to Land's End or at Newquay either. Right, time to charge. So, connect plug, it says. Plug is connected. Finished, please return. I haven't even started. Okay, so got to put it back. Have a great day, drive safely, thanks. Welcome. Connect plug. Plug connected. Success. Please wait. Communicating with vehicle. Very interesting. Please pay. Right. Processing. Payment accepted. Finished. Please return plug. That's good. Have a great day, drive safe. I'd love to. Right, welcome, connect plug. Plug connected. Communicating with vehicle, please wait. Communication failed. Return the plug and try again. Third time lucky. Plug connected. Success. Communicating with vehicle, please wait. Right. Please pay. I got this far before. Processing, card accepted, payment accepted. I'm excited now. Starting session. I don't think I got this far last time. It's charging. As easy as that. So, after arriving with just 4% of my battery remaining and finally getting the charger to work, 45 minutes later I was up to 85% and ready to go.
Okay, so even if you own a Tesla, you can't avoid traffic. So I'm going down a tiny country lane at the moment, some horses in front of me there, and that is because I'm trying to avoid the main road, which was chock-a-block. We weren't moving at all. So I am losing time. I've lost 12 minutes already according to the sat-nav. So I think by the time I get to my supercharger stop-off, which I don't actually really need, but would be very helpful for tomorrow, Doug might actually be ahead of me. Hello mate, how are you getting on?
Well, we're only 30 miles away,
Okay,
but saying it's going to take us 57 minutes.
just stopped for a second charge. Got about 80% there or thereabouts, maybe just under. 43 minutes to go to Land's End, 21 miles.
Okay, fine. I was really worried that I'd stopped to charge for too long and then we were going to be like wildly on different schedules, but actually that sounds totally fine.
We are here, Land's End. There you go, there's the sign, welcome to Land's End. It's been a long journey, 2 charges, but I've still got almost 70% of battery, so made it here very easily, not stressful at all. Doug has only done 1 stop. I was ahead of him, I'm assuming I still am, but I am about to find out.
Okay, I've made it. The big question is, have I beaten Will? I know that he's charged twice, so surely that means I'm ahead of him. The traffic's been terrible, but it will be terrible for him as well. I think there's a pretty good chance that I will have beaten him. In fact, if I haven't, that will be pretty disappointing because I've only stopped to charge once. So we're just going into the car park now. Can I see a red Tesla and a smug looking man anywhere?
So here he is, he's finally arrived about 15 minutes after us. But we're both here, the sun's shining, we are at the end of the Land's End. So you finally made it, Doug. 2 charging stops, just the 1.
Have you been here for long?
About 15 minutes.
Okay. That's a comfortable victory, I'd say.
I think so.
This wasn't a race though.
It wasn't a race, that is true. In fact, let's discuss efficiency because that is obviously part of electric car ownership.
Okay.
So this car, I've just worked it out, did 4.03 miles per kilowatt hour. So that's not bad. Reasonably warm day, of course, about 18 degrees at the moment.
That is pretty good and much better than what I got. So over 287 miles, which you've done so far, the trick computer at least is telling me that I've done 3.4 miles per kilowatt hour.
Wow.
So this will end up costing quite a bit more in electricity.
That is quite a difference.
And you were charging up quicker than I was, presumably, both times?
Yeah, this preconditions the battery. So when you plug in a supercharger, it rockets to about 160, just over 160, and then gradually does start to decrease. But you know, even by the time you're 80%, it's still doing 80 kilowatts. How about you?
When I first plugged this in, it quite quickly went up to 140, I saw. But then it also very quickly went down to like 75 kilowatts for a lot of the time that we were there, which is a bit frustrating. But what can you do? So really, so far today, this has got a longer range. So I travelled further than you did before my first charging stop. But as this illustrates, it's not really giving me any advantage at all. And it's costing me more to do this journey.
Yes, you've got a cheaper car.
This is about £6,000 cheaper, isn't it? So that's quite a lot of charges.
That is quite a lot of charging. And I have no idea how much I spent on supercharging. We'll work that out, obviously, at the end of the entire journey tomorrow. But yeah, certainly in terms of speed, and also it's so stress-free. You know you're going to arrive, you know there's going to be a charger available, you know that all you've got to do is plug it in. You don't have to worry about an app connecting up, you don't have to worry about tapping a card on there. So on that side of things, I think still Tesla is in a league of its own.
I'm finding it difficult to argue against that, but let's go to Nuki.
Let's do it.
With plenty of charge left in both cars and a 40-mile journey to the hotel, we didn't need to worry about stopping or even charging overnight. Topping up the batteries was a job for tomorrow.
So Will, it's the second day, we're headed back. What is your plan of attack for today?
Well, I am just going to put our final destination, which is a charging point near Twickenham, our office, into the sat-nav and just do what it tells me really. And it tells me to stop at Supercharger in Exeter. But for some reason, now I have no data at all. So it's saying routing with no traffic data. It's not connected. I don't know if it's because we're in Cornwall, but it's saying that I should arrive at the Supercharger in Exeter with 12% of battery left, and we are currently 71 miles away.
So Will, you're only going to have to stop once, you think?
Yes, I think once will be absolutely fine. And this is supposedly the Supercharger location in the UK with the most stalls in it. So it has 32 stalls. And yesterday when I stopped there, only about 7 or 8 of them are being used. So I'm pretty confident I'll be able to plug in, probably wait 20 minutes or so, and then be able to get back to London fairly easily.
So I'm just using Apple CarPlay and Waze, and then choosing the charging stops myself, like I was doing yesterday. I'm going to have to charge once today, but I will have to get quite a full charge at the one that I stop at. I'm aiming for one beyond Exeter, so I don't have to stop as early as you. I can just keep on going. I'm about 80 miles away from it. The car says I've got 118 miles of range.
Okay. So we are just pulling in to Exeter services. It's about a mile ahead now. And hopefully, at least, this will be my final charging stop of the journey. When I left Newquay, the sat-nav was telling me that I'd arrive with 12% of battery remaining. That's been fluctuating, but down to 11. Now it's saying 13%, so very accurate actually. And again, it gives you confidence, it gives you trust in the car that it will get you to the destination without me driving ridiculously slowly. I've been doing 70 miles an hour pretty much the whole way, unlike Doug yesterday, who had to actually slow down a bit to make the charging destination that he was trying to get to. So all in all, another really pleasant experience. And apparently, when I get to the service station in just a second, there are 24 of the 32 stalls available. So I should be able to plug in, get a quick charge, and be on my way to London.
Okay, so I was able to leave Will at Exeter services while he got a charge, carry on a bit further. Now I've driven through this random industrial estate area, and I'm hopefully about to find some Instavolt chargers which will give me a very, very quick charge and also cost a lot of money. But at least that will then give me enough to finish off the journey. So Will, how was your charging stop?
Yeah, pretty uneventful really. I stopped, plugged in, went and got some lunch, went to the toilet, little boys' room, and by the time I got back, which I think it was around 25 minutes, maybe just a little bit less, it had plenty to get me to London. So yeah, that was as easy as it gets really, and I needed to stop for lunch anyway, so all good. How about yourself?
Well, I ended up staying longer than I sort of planned for, because the place that I ended up charging was at this kind of like farm, restaurant, hotel type thing. So I sat down for lunch, got up to 90%. It wasn't charging as quickly as it should have done, but I've still got more than enough to get back to London as well.
So you're probably what, 20 minutes behind me then, or?
Well, I am not, because I am stuck in some pretty terrible traffic trying to get on the A303. But have you managed to avoid that?
Yes, the Tesla sat-nav just said go off the A303 for a little bit. So I am back on it now, but I'm past all the traffic. So yeah, looks like, fingers crossed, no more traffic into London now.
Okay, what time are you supposed to be at our final destination?
3:26 p.m.
Right, that's about an hour before me. So I think I probably did stop for too long while charging. And I also think I've been a bit stitched up by the traffic, and maybe where my charger was located, Waze wasn't able to take me through or away from the traffic that's been building up.
Idiot.
It's not a race.
It's not a race, but you don't want to be sitting in traffic for hours on end, do you?
Okay, so while I'm trying to hack my way through this traffic, let's just remind viewers the key differences between these two cars, all right? So how much does your Model 3 cost?
£42,990 if you buy one brand new.
And this MG4 Extended Range is £36,495. What's the official range of the Model 3?
This one, the rear-wheel drive, the entry-level model, is 305 miles officially.
This is 323 miles. How much power does your Model 3 have?
Well, Tesla doesn't officially quote power figures, but some unofficial resource that we've found suggests that it's around about 275 brake horsepower.
Okay, this apparently has 241 brake horsepower. What's your 0 to 60 miles an hour time?
5.8 seconds.
Okay, this is 6.1 seconds. What's your top speed?
140 miles an hour.
Okay, this is 112 miles an hour. What's your maximum charging speed?
Fastest speed we've seen is 171 kilowatts.
What's your quoted 10 to 80% charge time as well?
25 minutes is the rough time.
Okay, so this MG4 Extended Range is the fastest charging version in the lineup, and it can accept something around 144 kilowatts, 145 kilowatts, and the 10 to 80% charge time at its quickest is apparently 39 minutes.
Okay, so it's not bad, but not that great, really.
There aren't that many areas, if I'm honest, where the MG4 is ahead of the Tesla. But let's see how this final part of the journey goes, and then we'll crunch numbers at the end of it.
See you back at What Car Towers. The finishing line is in sight. We have done almost 620 miles over the last couple of days, and we've had 3 charging stops to make that, and I've still got around 10% of battery charge remaining, a little bit less than it suggested when I left my last charging stop in Exeter, but we have had to do a slight detour to avoid some traffic, and also there was quite a nasty headwind. It was also quite hilly en route as well. So all I need to do now is plug the car in, charge it up, and work out how much all of this cost.
Right, almost 600 miles for me. I'm approaching our final stop to charge this thing up so that we have the exact amount of kilowatt hours that it's taken to do this journey. But the question is, how much did this all cost us? So, Will, in the Model 3, how many kilowatt hours did you use?
Well, at my first stop at Exeter on the way down, I took on 34 kilowatt hours at a cost of £12.24. Then I had a second stop at Camborne, that was quicker, 26 kilowatt hours, £11.60. And then I had one stop on the way back, Exeter again, 41 kilowatt hours, and that cost £14.76. And then when we got back to London, we effectively topped up at home, as someone would do if they made that trip for real, so back up to 100%.
And just to clarify as well, we didn't literally charge up at home. We used a fast public charger as our final destination in London, but that was only so we could quickly get the final kilowatt hour figure that we needed to then carry out the calculations for this test. And of course, some people might have very cheap overnight EV tariffs to get even lower rates for charging up at home. But for this test, we're just interested in the difference between the two cars using the same sets of parameters to be able to compare them.
So based on 27 pence per kilowatt hour, which is the current energy price cap, I took on 61.8 kilowatt hours, and that would have cost me £16.69.
Okay, and so the total cost for your trip was how much?
£55.39.
£55.39. Okay, so for me, I only stopped to charge twice. My first stop to charge, I needed 62.3 kilowatt hours, which cost me £45. But this was at a Shell recharge, and I was actually undercharged. So Shell recharge costs 85 pence per kilowatt hour, which is extremely expensive. And so I should have been charged about £53, but instead I was only charged £45. We contacted Shell. They didn't really have any explanation as to why that was the case. My second stop the next day was £46.02 for 61.4 kilowatt hours. And then for the final top up at home, it cost me £14.27 for 52.9 kilowatt hours. And interestingly, even though I covered less miles than you, I required more energy
to do so. And the total cost of my trip was £105.29, which is pretty shocking really. So why was your Tesla so cheap?
Well, a couple of reasons I think. So firstly, Tesla's supercharger prices are generally cheaper than the public charging network. So I paid between 36 and 45p per kilowatt hour. It does vary depending on whether you're charging off-peak times or peak times. So that was one reason, but also the Model 3 was quite a bit more efficient. We calculated that based on the kilowatt hours that we put into the battery, so factoring in charging losses, and on that basis the Tesla did 3.8 miles per kilowatt hour. So that wasn't the trip computer reading, but we are factoring in charging losses. So it did 3.8 miles per kilowatt hour, which I think is quite a bit better than the MG4.
So the MG4 was about 3.4 miles per kilowatt hour?
Quite a difference.
So the Model 3 was cheaper to do the journey, it was more efficient, and your experience with superchargers was pretty positive as well, right?
Yeah, the supercharger network is fantastic really. I mean, you can just get out of the car, plug the connector in, it syncs up automatically, charging begins immediately, and you get a good speed almost always because the battery is preconditioned for that charging stop as long as you put it in the sat nav. And then the money comes out of your account at the end, so you don't need to mess around with apps or use a contactless card to pay for the charge. Also, there are loads of stalls. So even if you're traveling on a day when every other Tesla owner is on the road and all of those stalls are taken, then it won't be long before someone leaves and you can plug in.
It's quite a different experience in non-Tesla superchargers. I was quite lucky really on my journey, I think, because there wasn't much of a hold up. I didn't have to wait for anyone using these chargers, which, considering that the destinations I used only had 2 chargers in each locations on quite a popular major route from London down to the southwest, I think I was pretty lucky really. But obviously at Shell it took a few times to connect it, and then you're paying 85 pence per kilowatt hour, which is crazily expensive, certainly compared to a supercharger. And it does just seem unfair really that you're paying so much more for a, most of the time, significantly worse experience.
I would equate it to business class versus travelling with a budget airline really.
Yeah, the MG4 was a bit Ryanair on this trip, I think. So, are there any areas at all where the MG is better than the Model 3?
Well, I think we both agreed that the Model 3 is quite a bit better to drive, has a nicer interior, has a much, much better infotainment system. It's also a little bit more practical, bigger boot.
So the thing with the MG4 is that at the entry point of its lineup for a standard range model, where the price is around £27,000, it is loads cheaper than any other equivalent electric car. And that's where it can be very recommendable. But when you're up now to the kind of £36,000 point, then the rivals that you're going to be comparing it to make it harder to recommend. There's just no competition against the Model 3 really. In a test like this, travelling lots of miles, the Tesla is comfortably the winner.
I agree. And also it's worth pointing out that that £6,000 difference in list price is potentially much smaller when you're looking at PCP monthly costs, because the Tesla is predicted to depreciate much more slowly. And also if you're saving huge amounts like that on longer trips, then it's not going to take long before that's going to close the gap significantly as well.
Yep, okay, so a comfortable win for the Model 3. Thanks very much for watching this video. If you want to see another one, then click up there. And if you want to go to our website to get a great deal on your next car, then click there.